Hello everyone. So today we are talking about atmosphere. As you can notice in our Blackboard page, you have a lot of background information about the atmosphere, the layers of the atmosphere, and now we'll discuss a little bit more about the air quality. And this is some of the important information you need to know before you do your assignment, your lab activity. We need to have in mind anytime we release pollutants at the atmospheres, these pollutants they don't stay at the same location of the source. We have the transport. In the same way we transport energy, we transport heat at the atmosphere, we transport gases and we transport the pollutants as well. So as you can know, we have the first layer of the atmosphere. It's what we call troposphere. In the troposphere, it's basically the first layer where we have all the contact with the gases in the air in the atmosphere. Then other layers, they are much higher. So troposphere is the main layer for us when we are talking about the human interaction and organism interaction with the atmosphere. And basically, we have all the wind patterns and we have the convection motion of the air and we have the transport of the pollutants. As you can see in this figure, we have cities, we have agriculture, we have lakes, we have many different kinds of activities. Not just us, but other organisms interact with the atmosphere. So in our cities, every time we drive a car or we use any kind of public transportation, that kind of transportation is generates some level of pollution at the air. When we talk about agriculture, when we apply fertilizers or when we apply pesticides, we are having interaction with the atmosphere because we are releasing this kind of substances. Part goes to the plants, but parts goes to the atmosphere and we have the transport. However, another aspect of how agriculture interact with the atmosphere, it's with livestock, with the waste production of our livestock. So the decomposition of the organic matter produce a lot of gases. In the case, the most common ones we heard about is methane and carbon dioxide. Our oceans produce oxygen to our atmosphere, but the decomposition of organic material produce carbon dioxide and methane as well. But ocean actually, it's our storage of oxygen. It's where we produce most of the oxygen we use in Earth. So this figure is important for you to notice when we have the motion or actually the convection motion of the air, we transport the pollutants and all the kinds of gases to another region. And we can have, for example, the acid rain. Uh, and a lot of factors. When we have wildfires, we release at the atmosphere, the plants release to the atmosphere a lot of particles. They can be different sizes, and these particles, we have the transport of these particles to other parts of the atmosphere. So it's important to know troposphere is the first and main layer of air. We interact a lot and we produce a lot of pollutants to the air. Another important thing we need to know is about the ozone layer. So we have the ozone layer in the stratosphere. An ozone layer is pretty important for us because protect us from the UV radiation, and UV radiation is very harmful for organisms. So ozone layer, it's in the stratosphere, and over time we are having these ozone layers become thin because we release a lot of gases goes to the atmosphere and interact with this ozone layer and create some kinds of what they call ozone hole, but actually it's not that hole. Actually we are just the ozone layers become thinner than before, and with that we have more UV radiation come to our land. However, when we talk about ozone, it's important to know ozone can be a harmful gas if it's in troposphere or what we call ground ozone. So when we I will see in the next slide what is that, but have in mind we have a stratosphere and we have the ozone layer, and we can have ozone in the troposphere, and this ozone in specific can be harmful for us and for the other organisms. As I was talking, ozone in the troposphere, it's a air pollution. So ozone in the troposphere, how we have the generation of the ozone in the troposphere. Basically, every time we have emissions of the what we call NOx, VOCs, and other kinds of pollutants to the atmosphere, these pollutants they interact with sunlight, and one of the outcomes is the ozone. And this ozone become accumulate here in our troposphere is what we call ground ozone and ground level ozone. And this is very harmful for the organisms. As you can see in the left side is a plant, a healthy plant, and in the right side it's a plant with contact with ozone. So as you can see, it's harmful, cause damage. The same for us as humans, and for the same for other kinds of organisms and ecosystems. So we need to have in mind the release of the pollutants can generate other kinds of gases, in the case ozone, and these gases can interact with us, with the biosphere, and being harmful for that. So ozone in the troposphere, ground, is not good, it's harmful. Ozone in the stratosphere, it's good because we have the ozone layer and can block the UV radiation. So sometimes we talk about eh, pollution and gases. And one of the important concepts we need to know is about what we call particulate matter. So basically, particulate matter, it's any kind of solid or liquid in the air. And so this can be dust, can be dirty, so smoke, can be dark enough to see with naked eyes, or sometimes they can be microscopic and we cannot see that. So we just need to look at the electronic microscope. So we have different particulate matter. So particulate matters is any kind of substance, liquid and solid, stay in the atmosphere, and we have different size of that. So this is one thing you need to have in mind. So we can, when we talk about air quality, we can discuss levels of ozone, levels of CO2, carbon dioxide, levels of methane, and what's the levels of particulate matter. So this kind of particulate matter, they are important to know, because when we do our respiration process, we have the contact with these particles. These particles can go to our lungs, go to our nose, our throat, and can cause a lot of problems, health problems for us. As I told, we have different size of particulate matters. One of the most common is PMT and PM2.5. This number means the size of the particles. So PM10, it's basically 10 micrometers or smaller. And PM2.5, it's 2.5 micrometers and is smaller than that. So as you imagine, micrometers, it's a very, very small particle. So we can think about our hair. So one hair here, as maybe you cannot see, like I have a hair here. It's basically the diameter of a hair, it's between 50 and 70 micrometers. If you imagine PM10 is 10, so we can have, like, in average, we can have between 5 and 6 particles just in the diameter of our hair. So it's already hard to see the hair, but imagine these small particles. And when we are talking about PM 2.5, it's even smaller. So we can have dozens of these particles in one hair. So another comparison we can make, it's about a sand gram. It's about 90 micrometers. So imagine how many particles we can have in just one sand gram. So why this is important? Because if it's a small particle, it's even hard to protect us to to have contact with these particles. And it's even hard, for example, when we are talking about create some management practices or installation of filters, because we're talking about very, very, very thin particles. So have in mind, when we talk about air quality, we can talk about gases like levels of CO2, carbon dioxide, level of the ozone because can be harmful for the organism, and we can have levels of methane, and we can have levels of particulate matter, 10 or 2.5. And the size is pretty important for us. One, because we can measure the amount of pollution, and we need to be more effective in the way to protect by that. So as I told, when we have contact with this PM, particulate matters, pretty small, the PM 2.5, we can have short-term effects in our health, and we can have long-term effects in our health as well. So as humans, we can, in a short term, when we have contact with all these particulate matters, can be coughing or can be some breathing difficult. We can have some eye irritation, nose irritation, throat irritation. We can start developing headaches, start to become more anxious. We can have some skin reactions, and we can have a lot of allergies. So when we talk about air quality, we can relate with pollen too. So when we are having the pollen season, this is a particular matter in the atmosphere. Of course, pollen is bigger than this kind of small particles, but all them can cause short-term effects in our health. But it's not just that, because sometimes we have punctual problems. If something happened, like a wildfire happened, and the air quality drops in our specific region just for a short amount of time. However, some areas, they have really bad air quality for a long time, and this contact with the exposure to this kind of air pollution can cause long-term effects. What kind of long-term effects? Can be strokes, can be cardiovascular diseases, can be even diabetes, can be lung cancer, or even some of the other problems as well. So air quality, it's important we know the air quality of the region, and be aware if we have contact with these particulate matters can cause us short and long-term effects. So how we evaluate the air quality of the region? We have what we call AQI. It's basically, we can have AQI for all the world. We have different AQIs, like we can see the AQI in different parts of the world, and we can have the index for EPA agents and the AQI for United States, the Air Quality Index. So basically, we have six different categories of air quality, going from green to maroon, or like this kind of this dark color. So when we have air quality where we classify as green, means it's a good air quality. And we have some values, specific values between 0 to over 300. So basically, when we have air quality with a green between 0 to 50, means this is good. So we don't have it's a little risk for us when we have this kind of air quality. However, when we are going to yellow, orange, red, purple, maroon, we start to have bad air quality. We decrease the quality of the air, drops the air quality. So basically, it goes from moderate between 51 to 100. Orange, it's 100 to 150, 101 to 150. Red becomes 151 to 200. Purple, 201 to 300. And over 300, maroon. It's like hazard. Basically, we starting going from moderate is like air quality is acceptable, but but some people can be more sensitive and start developing these short-term effects, but it's acceptable. In the orange, the sensitive groups can be older people, can be young, can be kids. They can have health effects. So the general public is less likely to be affected, but the sensitive groups, they can experience health effects. When we go to the red color, when we are talking about unhealthy air quality, it's not just about the sensitive groups, but the normal population, the public population can have health effects as well. Purple actually is just very unhealthy, so it's a kind of health alert because we can develop even more short and long term uh, health problems. And when it's maroon, when it's like this brown color, means when it's the over 300, means it's an emergency, it's a warning. So everyone is much more likely to be affected, and even the problems can be much more can cause much more damage for the organism, for us as humans. So what's the five major pollutants in the air? And usually when we discuss about air quality and discuss these indexes, these are the pollutants we have. So we have what we call ground level ozone. We discussed a few slides ago. We have the PM 2.5 and PM 10. This is the particulate matter. We have what we call carbon monoxide, the CO2, sulfur dioxide, and nitrogen dioxide. These are the main major pollutants, and usually they are the variables to define the air quality for a specific region. The most common it's ground level ozone, PM 2.5 and PM 10, and carbon monoxide. Usually, these are the results we have for most of the regions. So we need to be aware about the air quality. Actually, in your smartphone, you can check the air quality at the forecast, and we need to imagine air quality and our weather, they are pretty connected, because we can have change in the air quality depends of the weather conditions as well. So in dry conditions where we have a lot of wind, we can have a lot of dust transport at the air, so our air drops in quality. And after a rain, most of the particles was at the atmosphere could precipitate with the rain, so we can have short terms with better air quality. So air quality is pretty dynamic, can be punctual, can be long term, depends of the situation, and depends of the weather characteristics as well. So we have this website, is basically where we can see the air quality in all the cities in the United States. You can see we have different colors. Remember the last slide I told about the green. So most are green, but we have regions we have yellow colors, orange colors, sometimes red colors. So depends of what's going on in that region. So usually when we have a city with high industrial area, we can decrease the air quality of the area. When we have like the wildfires in California, for example, dropped the air quality. The same thing when we have like the wildfires in Canada, we had the transport of all that particulate matter to the south, to United States, and this affected our air quality. So in this website, you are not just seeing the air quality, but the wildfire activity. So for our lab activity, you need to choose different cities in United States and make a comparison between the air quality and the weather aspects and the land cover, land use, industrialization, all the aspects can have interference with air quality. So before you start your lab, go to the website and play around to see the different cities in the air quality. And as you can see, for some cities, we'll have more aspects. For example, we can have all that major five pollutants. Some of the cities we can just have like PM 2.5 and PM 10. So the report for that. So I hope this can help you with your lab activity, and let me know if you need anything.